Kitty cat wants in on this new old saying. If a politician tells you that something is in the interest of national security or in our nation's interest, but he really means that it's in the interest of a multinational corporation and their profits. The lack of profanity in my videos is not due to my genteel nature or in consideration of younger viewers or even a lack of familiarity. The second trade I learned was carpentry, and if you've ever been at an isolated job site with a bevy of carpenters, the first thing you'd probably notice is that every third word is an explicative. And while I can't speak about the other military branches, the Navy is renowned for their vulgarity, where in the enlisted ranks every other word is a curse word if you want to be heard. Although officers are instructed not to do so, hence the gentleman part of that title, instructions in leadership include a decibel increase when barking orders, to be famously concluded with 2 words. That. An interesting thing about American men, and I'm not limiting my comment to U.S. individuals this time, when they raise their voices, here come the explicatives. But the real reason I don't trash talk is I grew up insulated and isolated, surrounded by very gentle people whom I reckon must have used great effort not to use that type of language around me. And then on my 5th birthday, I was ripped from that culture by a 100-year flood. Back when 100-year floods only came around every 100 years and not every 5 like they do so now. And I found myself immersed in a foreign culture with a completely different language and a bunch of new rules to sink or swim. It took me almost a year to get it through my thick skull and slow thought process, just to figure out that not just the adjectives and adverbs, but the whole sentence structure in English was pretty much the reverse of Spanish. The one thing I was smart enough to realize was that I should consider my sources. So as much as I could, I hung with the big kids, whom I later learned to refer to as adults. I didn't even know about slang until I hit 12, when it entered my world like a third language. And I can speak it as eloquently as I do the other 2. But as I don't slip easily between English and Spanish, the same applies to the most colorful language I know. And I will say this: if I do start cursing up a blue streak, I can do it in Spanish or English or both. Cursing is, opposed to cursive, using words that hide our dirt. As such, they're labeled filthy words, and properly used can make someone hurt. Tools they are to separate us from our bodies, to hide their functions from our eyes. We hide the dirty aspects of our lives and call that civilized. But on a finite planet, all our crap equates to that embarrassing situation we've all faced, the unflushable turd. We've turned the once mighty, misnamed Pacific Ocean into a giant cesspool. We produce so many poisons that toxins reside in every mouthful of our food. The FDA is now insisting that mercury is safe to eat, although my 6th grade science final act was that the weight must be exactly what I started with. That the safety rules had not been beat, double-gloved and safety-goggled. But even more important, don't let this awesome, fearsome, freaky, and fabulous metal loose into our environmental pool. Brain killer, my teacher called it, allowing only 2 of us to actually participate. He had to know that when the fun was done, the work would not culminate until all aspects, rules, and regulations were complete, including the meticulous documentation, which always seems to take more time and why most grow up and science hate. It seems to me that since we entered what we call a civilized society, we've tried to hide from speaking truth about the filth we generate. Euphemistically referring to the crap we claim to hate, and yet those words retain the stench. They shock, unnerve, and discomfort us. As well they should, because we've turned this world into a dung heap of despair. Civilized society's lack of honesty is causing us to bio-suicide. Instead of trying to kill all the natives, we would have been wise to emulate them. Or, to quote an early scientist, first, do no harm. Maybe then I wouldn't have to work so hard to end my comments with a smile. And now, into the circle 5.